I'm Laura from Get Organized HQ, and we need to talk about the big piles of recipes that we have laying around and what to do with them. If you're anything like me, I'm gonna guess that you have a lot of plans for these recipes. You're gonna get them nicely organized in a binder, categorized so you can find them. You're gonna have a whole digital system and a printed system, and it's gonna be amazing, right? Let me tell you from experience, that's the actual problem, is that we have these big visions for what we're gonna do with these recipes, and it keeps us from actually getting it done. So I wanna show you how I actually organize my recipes, like years and years of all the printed recipes, in one afternoon. You really, truly can do this, and I'm gonna show you how, but you need to follow these exact steps or it's not gonna work. All right, so step one is you will need to gather up your recipes. You may already have them in one spot. It's so fantastic you've done that. Otherwise, go gathering them up. Now, you do not have to gather up every physical recipe you have everywhere to get started. You can just gather up a pile and go ahead and get started. Simple, right? All right, now the next step is you're going to categorize your recipes. You're just gonna take a stack. You do not need to do this with all of your recipes. Categorize them, but you only get to do 2 categories, and those categories are dessert or not dessert. That's it. We're not categorizing in any other way. I know that sounds a little strange, but trust me, it's for a reason. It's because when you get too complicated, it just gets overwhelming. Is this chicken or slow cooker or what is it? We wouldn't have a good way to organize them. They're not digital. We can't tag them with multiple things. So we're going to keep it really, really simple. And it is either dessert or not a dessert. Okay, so I've got a few recipes categorized here into not dessert and dessert. Next, you're gonna take one of these. I call these a presentation binder. It's also called a display book. This goes by lots of different names. It is literally kind of like a 3-ring binder, except it's bound more tightly so you don't have the bulk of the 3-ring binder. And it just is a ton of page protectors. Here's mine. I will link to the exact one that I use. I think they're very affordable. They hold a lot. These are the ones I use all over the place, not even just for recipes, but for other things as well. So you're going to get that. You're going to have one for dessert and one for non-dessert. You can write on it, denote it any way you want. You can see I haven't even bothered to do that yet. I'm going to go to my dessert one here. I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to start putting in these dessert recipes. Now, if it's blank on the back, I'm going to try to find something else that I don't care about the back of so that we're using both the front and back of the page protector. If it's like a printed recipe and it's printed on front and back, then I will just stick the one page in. It just depends. But the idea is, for the most part, when you're using this, you should not have to pull them back out. You should be able to cook, right from keeping them in the binder. Also, you'll get the hang of how to place them in. It takes, a couple times to really get the hang of it. I actually like to flip it over this direction, and I feel like that works a lot better. And then you bend the paper that you're putting in just a little bit, and they will slide in much more easily. And you can see how it fits all sorts of things. Like this is from a tear out from a magazine. That fits right in there. Then once I got all the dessert ones in, I would go to my main dish one here, and I would start putting them in here. Okay, now that I have my dessert and non-desserts in the binder, that's it. You're literally done. Your recipes are now organized. They're 10 times better than they were. It's easy to flip through. There are some optional things that you can do to take it up a notch, and I'm going to answer some frequently asked questions. But Once this is complete, all of your recipes are in a binder. Shouldn't take you very long. You can even play a movie or an audiobook or something while you're doing it. Just slip them all in. Once that's done, you can enhance it if you choose to do so. So the first enhancement, if you want to add this on, would be to give it page numbers. There are a couple of different ways that you can do the page numbers. Here I have taken these little stickers. Like I wrote on the stickers first, 1 through whatever the page number is, and then I stuck them on. Alternatively, you can write directly with a Sharpie on these page protectors. So what you would do is you would just write. Now, if I were to put my finger over it immediately, it would smear. But this one sat here for 5 minutes and it did not smear. So I think that if you are very careful with it, you can just skip the step of the stickers and just write with a Sharpie directly on it, and it will work okay. But again, you're going to have a little bit of smearing if you flip the pages too fast, and then it's going to take you forever if you have to wait a minute or two between the pages. That's why I went with the sticker method of page numbering. But again, you're still way more organized if you just have them in here with or without page numbers. But then once you have page numbers, you'll want to do an index. Now you could, of course, just take any old piece of paper or print out an index and write the recipe name and the page number and slip it in the front. That is totally an option. However, I prefer to have a digital index. So that would be in the Notes app on my phone. I have an index here for my desserts recipe, and I call it recipe index desserts. And then I put the name of the recipe, homemade vanilla pudding, dash page number 2, chocolate eclair cake, dash 3. So then I can search from within this note for what I'm looking for, and I can quickly find that recipe and it'll tell me what page number it's on. That is super duper helpful. Also, if you have multiple books, so like I have tons of desserts, so I have multiple books of desserts. What I do, you could do like volume 1, volume 2, and do like volume 1, page 1 to 60, volume 2, page 1 to 60, or whatever. Instead, what I like to do, this is volume 1. So when I get to volume 2, I'm going to keep going with the next number in the sequence. So that's going to be page, if I end this one on page 60, the next volume is just going to be page 61. So, and you can write, on the spine, volume 1, pages 1 to 60, and that way you'll know at a glance which book to pull when you're looking for a specific recipe. This is especially helpful if you have quite a lot of recipes that you're organizing. Then, if you want to take it up another notch, again, this is optional. Once everything else is done, you can add one more enhancement to that, and that is where you add tags here on your note with the index. So you could add the tag healthy, crock pot, chicken, beef, whatever it is that you might specifically be looking for. And then when you search, you can put hashtag healthy, and that will bring up all of your healthy recipes, for example. So that's another layer of organization that you can optionally add to it. But what's really critical is you don't have to do any of the optionals in order for them to be organized. And that way this project is not going to take you forever. You can hopefully get a lot of recipes organized in a very short amount of time. Now, one thing that I know is going to come up is what if you have a lot of these like little recipe cards? What you do is you can, I just want to point out, if you wanted to, you totally could just literally put the recipe card, and you might do this if you only have 2 or 3 of these like recipe card styles, just stick it in there. It'll work, but you're kind of wasting space. And if you try to put more in there, they're not going to stay. I wouldn't trust this to stay right here and like this one not to move down. I mean, maybe it would work, but I feel like it's kind of going to move. So what I do instead is I just take a regular piece of paper. This is just printer paper, nothing special, and literally tape the recipe on there. I also have I just happen to have these. I didn't buy them, but these are removable mounting squares. They're designed for like scrapbooking, but this means I can remove this recipe if I really want to, so I don't feel like it's on there quite as permanently. So you can totally do that if you prefer, but however you just want to adhere them. And if you're talking about a fairly standard size of recipe, 3 will fit on one regular size paper. And then if you had a lot, you could go to the other side and put 3 more on there, and you could really fit 6 recipes on one sheet of paper and then put it in the page protector. So that's one thing you can do if you have this style of recipe card. If you have bigger ones, you may not be able to fit as many. If you have like magazine tear outs, again, this one I wouldn't bother. I would literally just put it right into this page protector and not worry about the fact that there's some extra space. Oh well, it's fine. The point is to get it done. It's so much better to have it done than to have it look perfect. Now, you might be wondering what to do with digital recipes, like all those recipes that you find online. So the first thing I would say is we're not going to print anything out. You're just going to start with what you already have printed and get those organized. Once that is done, if you want to choose to print more things out, you absolutely can do that and then put it into your system. But that's optional, and I want you to start with what you already have. And then as far as organizing those recipes digitally, that is an entirely separate topic, and I consider that an entirely separate project. So we're not going to worry about that when we're doing our physical recipes. Instead, I will make it a totally separate video at some point, and whenever I get that made, I'll link it down below. It probably won't be right away, so that I can walk you through a simple process for bringing some order to those ones that you've saved on your computer. If you have a lot of recipes, I'm gonna guess that you like to spend some time in the kitchen cooking or baking like I do, and I recommend that you check out my video about the #1 kitchen organization mistake that I see people making next. I'll leave it linked down below for you.